Bless you there. That you're kind of building these ellipses, and the ellipses don't really have the points at either end, and anything that's tucked up underneath it or inside of it is going to be there. So I made mine just fitting on the top of this section here, and depending on how I add to this. So every designer or glass maker or powder ceramicist is always coming up with ideas. Here I'm just going to put a little bit of a cast shadow, which is also an elliptical shape, and putting it into that scale. So see if you can't, and again trying to find the base of where this is at. Just finding a center line and taking a look at the height. And it's all equidistances apart there. And then just lining that up again, trying to keep it loose just with taping. And now this has a little bit more of a circular piece, so you can see a roundish shape, and it brings back more to the drawing. And this is taping itself down. And again, once you get the basic sketch in there, then you can go ahead and throw some of the shading in it. And then go back in with the accent lines to make it a little more even. It is the symmetrical side, even on either side of a central axis, which happens to be the center line of all these ellipses here. And if it was casting a shadow, it would be more evident on the object itself. Build it up like that. Just kind of go along that way. So for example, I'm just using a dark pencil, I'm just going to kind of follow along here. I'm going to create a center line at least, give it a base ellipse and trying to keep it as round as I can so it doesn't have any of the corner edges showing, and do the same, just kind of bring up the edges parallel, equal distances apart, and just kind of end wherever that happens to be. Now since this is glass, which is kind of nice, I'm just going to let the transparencies work with this all the way through. I'm just going to give it some shading, kind of keep some highlights, and it's pretty much drawn, except for just going in there with some of the highlights themselves. So I'm just going to arch this in here and just kind of give a couple accent lines as it goes into representing this glass. And it kind of shows it up pretty easily. So there's an edge to it, highlighting it like this. And part of the book behind it, you know, it can be lost or kind of show a little bit of it on there. Okay. So it'll give you a little bit of it right behind there. And since I'm doing this glass, it makes it a little bit easier. So I'm just going to put a elliptical shape here, give it a center line as best I can right from the top. If I give it parallel lines going up, at least it's the same thickness, but you know it's a little wider. So I'm going to make it a little bit wider at the top and trying to make it a symmetrical, equal distances on either side. And if I just draw a straight line, corner to corner at least, that's one shape, but this is a little bit tapered, so I'm just going to make the large curve there. So once I have that in there, since it is glass, I can again just put a base tone. I'm just using the side of the pencil again and letting the direction of the shading go with it, just like anything else we've talked about. The top part may have a little tone to it. You know, we're not necessarily at this time looking at the glass. And down below it has a little extra section there, so when you see that, and now you can use the line like you're drawing or writing. Now this part right here where the glass is touching the television set, anybody know what that's called in geometry? When two shapes touch or share the same point? It is a tangent. And as far as helping or showing space, that kind of flattens the area out, so I'm going to leave it in there just for that piece. See whether or not you can, again, just putting some of the darker sections at the bottom. See how you do on that. Give a little look. I'm just going to put it behind it, but again, all designers, everything's placed in. I'm just going to kind of give it the quick box that it would be in. I'm going to raise it a little bit. So just kind of angling these the best I can. And about halfway across. Now this has a little bit of perspective to it, so I'm just going to kind of get those lines in there at least. So these are still parallel to each other as best we can. I'm kind of emphasizing a little bit. Didn't mean to do that. But the thickness of the chair, establish that pretty quickly. The four parts where it sets is one I got hidden behind the book, so I'll leave that there. The center of this backing has a thickness to it. And then the back. So you can kind of see it's just quickly drawn out there. Then I can still shade it with the pencil sideways, just kind of build it up a little bit. And then I can go back in with the point line and just firm up the drawing a little. It depends. So I'm just going to put some heavier lines here. I might change a little bit of the cushion. And then just kind of look at the legs of the chair. Now, they're sketched in there, so you have to use your imagination as to see what's happening. I'm going to put a little elliptical shape down there. That's going to be the beginning part of this. And then this kind of curves, so it doesn't really give too much detail in the sketch, so you got to kind of look at some of the stuff you might know ahead of time. Alea, go ahead and try this. Don't stay off that telephone. And then in the center, I'm just going to put a little dot for the upholstery and a couple curved lines just to show the arch to it. But once you get to that part, you can start to add some details, say like it's down by where this curve of the chair's at. A couple of shading parts there. And put a little bit of the upholstery there so it kind of builds that part up. Back might have some tone to it.